So this paper is how and why Cult applies to everything and thus solves the hard scientific problem of consilience, the unity of all knowledge. I'm Velikovsky of Newcastle, founder of evolutionary culturology. So science has three scale levels. Down the bottom we have the individual sciences, physics, chemistry, etc. In the middle we have the medium-sized meta-sciences such as systems science, information and communication science, and so on. And up top we have a meta science, evolutionary culturology, which includes the other two scale levels, the meta sciences and all the individual sciences. So here's a closer view of a list of the individual sciences. On the left, quantum physics, that moves into classical physics, then chemistry, geology and astronomy, biology, psychology, sociology, anthropology, and the arts and humanities, which now fall under the purview of science, thanks to the meta science of evolutionary culturology. And so here's a closer view of the meta sciences. There's systems science, information and communication science, computer science, the meta science of evolutionary algorithms, applied evolutionary epistemology, cultural evolution science, and creativity science. And here is a meta science, evolutionary culturology, which is a universal scientific set of units for everything, scale levels, three laws of those units, and the evolutionary algorithms that operate on those units. And crucially, the meta sciences apply equally to all of the individual sciences on the scale level below. So here we see the meta sciences in the top row and the individual sciences in the bottom row. So systems science applies equally to all of the individual sciences in quantum physics, quantum particles such as quarks, systems. So too in classical physics, atoms are systems, solar systems are systems, galaxies are systems. Chemistry, of course, everything in that is a system, molecules, elements. So too in geology, every unit in geology is a system, whether it be tectonic plates or ecosystems. Astronomy, so too, is all systems, galaxies, solar systems, planets, stars, etc. And you can go across the whole bottom row there of individual sciences. Everything can be analysed as a system all the way through biology, psychology, sociology, anthropology, and of course now the arts and humanities, thanks to Cult. So the meta sciences apply to all of the individual sciences. And looking at another example, information, all those domains down the bottom involve information. The universe is made of energy, matter and information. So quantum physics is information, classical physics, information. You can examine the information that's involved in each of these systems, and that gets transmitted and received by each of these systems. So again, all the way along, those individual sciences, That's how information or communication science applies to all the individual sciences. And we could keep going along the rows of all the meta sciences there: systems science, information and communication science, computer science, evolutionary algorithms, applied evolutionary epistemology, cultural evolution science, and creativity science. All those meta sciences apply equally to all the individual sciences on the bottom row. So of course, let's cut to the right hand one: creativity science. Everything in the arts and humanities can be analysed as a fractal whole-on parton, and creativity is a unit of culture or a unit of anything: biology, physics, chemistry, that is new, useful and surprising. So you can study creativity in the arts and humanities, the emergence of new, useful and surprising books, movies, songs, etc., scientific theories, anything. And you can apply to anthropology, looking at cultures, civilizations, etc., looking at the new, useful and surprising units of culture. And so too, all along the bottom, we can look at creativity, new, useful and surprising behaviors or thoughts, or even emotions in psychology. And so too, all the individual sciences you can examine for their new, useful and surprising units as they emerge in each domain. So creativity science also applies all the way to all the individual sciences on the bottom row there. So that's just pointing out how the meta sciences apply to all of the individual sciences on that bottom row. And then of course we have evolutionary culturology, which includes all of the meta sciences because it reduces them all to fractal whole-on partons with a universal set of units, scale levels, laws and evolutionary mechanisms. And so too with the individual sciences: physics, chemistry, geology, astronomy, biology, psychology, etc. So EvCult reduces all systems to fractal whole-on partons, their simpler scientific structure. So there's a system on the left with inputs, outputs, a boundary, an algorithm inside, and it's part of an ecosystem. But EvCult reduces all systems to fractal whole-on partons with their three laws: integrate upwards, compete and cooperate with units on the same scale level, and command and control the smaller units inside. And yes, law number 1, integrate upwards into a larger unit on the scale level above. Law 2, compete and cooperate with units on the same scale level. And law 3, command and control the smaller units which are inside them. So you can look at that fractal whole-on parton diagram there and think of it as a set of circles, or a superset with sets and then subsets inside. But either way, you can see those three laws in operation. So the larger circles contain smaller circles inside. The medium-sized circles compete and cooperate with the other circles on the same scale or size level, and they command and control the smaller circles inside them. So think of that as sets or as systems, or more simply as fractal whole-on partons. So there's the three laws: integrate upwards into a larger unit on the scale level above, compete and cooperate sideways with units on the same scale level, and control and command downwards the smaller scale units on the level below which are inside them. So that's how supersystems, systems and subsystems work, and all systems can be reduced to fractal whole-on partons. So you can see how that works. You could consider that a system with three subsystems inside, and there's three subsystems, subsystems inside of those, and so on, infinitely larger and infinitely smaller. And EvCult, evolutionary culturology, turns even the arts and humanities into a science. Now that we have the fractal whole-on parton structure and function of all units of culture, and culture just means information, and the universe is made of information, energy and matter. And so here's a couple of diagrams from one of the textbooks on EvCult, Elements of Evolutionary Culturology. There's a diagram showing the units and scale levels in the cultural domain of novels on the left there, all the way from glyphs or letters down the bottom up through words, sentences, chapters, books, genres, all novels. And on the right we have biology, so cells, organisms, the biosphere, all broken down with their units and scale levels there, given the structure and function of the fractal holon parton, the unit of culture or the unit of information. Next. So all you need is the fractal holon parton and its 3 laws, and you can find the units and scale levels in anything and everything thanks to EvCult. So all units of culture are fractal holon partons. There's an example from Elements of EvCult, the textbook, looking at the domain of narrative. So all narratives or all stories are also fractal holon partons, and you can see the breakdowns there. The smallest unit is the event or moment. Moving up, actions, they integrate upwards into story beats, integrate upwards into scenes, integrate upwards into sequences of scenes, integrate upwards into story acts, and those integrate upwards into the whole story. They integrate upwards into narrative genres, etc. So there's a breakdown of the structure and function of narrative examined as a fractal holon parton. So this is an example of how EvCult turns even the arts and humanities into a science. Once you have the units, the scale levels, the 3 laws and the mechanisms, you can scientifically analyse all culture, including the arts and humanities, using the fractal holon parton and its 3 laws. So evolutionary culturology subsumes the meta-sciences and the individual sciences into it, because it scientifically reduces everything to fractal holon partons. So the meta-sciences are subsumed into EvCult, and so too the individual sciences. They all fall under the umbrella of the meta-science of evolutionary culturology, which is a universal scientific set of 1 units, which are fractal holon partons, the scale levels, looking from quarks all the way up to the universe. The 3 laws, integrate upwards, compete and cooperate sideways, command and control downwards, and evolutionary algorithms of those units. So simplifying everything scientifically. So the meta-science of evolutionary culturology is a single, universal, one-size-fits-all scientific set of units, scale levels, the first 3 laws of fractal holon partons, evolutionary mechanisms, and more than 100 scientific models in the EvCult textbooks. And that leads to this unity of science. When you look at Consilience by E.O. Wilson, 1998. So EvCult is a solution to Consilience, the unity of all knowledge. Because, to repeat, EvCult reduces all systems to fractal holon partons. The universe is made of systems. It's a system of smaller systems. Everything in the universe is a system. So on the left there we have an example system with its 5 features or parts. You've got inputs, outputs of the system, a boundary of the system. Inside the system is an algorithm or processor, and on the outside is a larger ecosystem or environment. So there's the 5 key parts of a system, but all systems in EvCult are reduced to fractal holon partons and their 3 laws. And you can use the 3 laws as a diagnostic tool to find the units and scale levels if you're looking at a domain you aren't familiar with. Next. So EvCult reduces everything to fractal holon partons. There's a top view of a fractal holon parton, an exploded view, so you can see the smaller parts that make up the wholes. And it applies to everything from protons in atoms to a cell or a person or a society, a nation, a planet, a book, a movie, a film, a song, a word, a language, a machine, etc. There's over 50,000 domains in culture, and evolutionary culturology applies to all of them, with the fractal holon parton simplifying the units, the scale levels, the laws, and the evolutionary mechanisms of change. And in the textbook, Elements of EvCult, 50 domains are examined in detail, showing their units and different scale levels. There's a list of them there, so that's a good start, those 50 domains in the textbook. And once you have the tools from learning some evolutionary culturology, you can go ahead and apply it to any and every domain. It's a universal science, or meta science. And there's the EvCult worldview, from strings down the bottom up through people in the middle to planets up to the universe and multiverse. You are a system of systems inside more systems. You are a fractal holon parton, and so am I. And you've got your 3 laws on the right hand side there: integrate upwards, compete and cooperate sideways, command and control downwards, inwards. So you can see those 24 scale levels there: quarks, hadrons, atoms, molecules, organelles, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, a person or an organism, family, community, city, state, country, continent, planet, star system, galaxy, galactic cluster, galactic supercluster, supercluster complex, universe, and multiverse. So the 3 laws go up and down at all scale levels there. Yes, so both systems and units of culture are structured and function via 3 laws as fractal holon partons, whether it's a language or music, food, anything. Systems and units of culture are structured and function as fractal holon partons via the 3 laws. And that solves consilience, the unity of all knowledge, because there are no domains that don't fit this framework. So you have the vertical integration of all the domains there from down the bottom: mathematics, then astronomy and geology, physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, sociology, anthropology, and the arts and humanities, unifying the sciences, social sciences, and the arts and humanities with a single set of units, levels, mechanisms, and laws. That's EvCult. And the 3 laws of fractal holon partons. You can use the 3 laws as a tool to find units of culture and their scale levels. And that is a solution to Consilience, the unity of knowledge. See that great book by E.O. Wilson from 1998, Consilience. EvCult is a solution to that long-time goal of the human race. Next. So, to recap, science has 3 scale levels. You've got your individual sciences on the bottom level, the meta sciences in the middle, such as systems science, information science, etc. And then EvCult, which includes all of them. A universal scientific set of units, scale levels, 3 laws, and evolutionary algorithms. Next. And for more information, further reading and viewing on EvCult, there's a list of papers, presentations, and publications on EvCult there at that URL. And of course, there's the textbook Elements of EvCult. And you can forget about complexity science or complex system science. EvCult is often called simplicity science because it reduces all systems and units of culture to their simpler scientific structure, the fractal holon parton. So there's EvCult in 6 sentences. That's really all you need to know to get started. Very simple and easy. And just touching briefly on some of the 50,000 applications of EvCult, here's how an LLM embedding space looks with clusters of semantic similarity. So large language models work like this. And here's, by comparison, a universal domain map of evolutionary culturology, the meta-sciences and the individual sciences. So down the bottom at the origin, 0, 0, is EvCult. Then above that in the middle, you've got the meta-sciences, system science, etc. And in the top ring up above is the individual sciences. So physics, chemistry, geology, astronomy, biology, etc. There's EvCult, there's the meta-sciences in the middle, there's the individual sciences at the top. And here's that same universal domain map with vectors showing how EvCult applies to all the meta-sciences. Sorry, EvCult applies to all the meta-sciences, and then the meta-sciences, system science, information science, creativity science, apply equally to all the individual sciences. There's EvCult, there's the meta-sciences in the middle, there's the individual sciences. Next. And this is a comparison of that universal domain map from EvCult to Wolfram Alpha's domain model, just out of interest. Here's a comparison of the EvCult universal domain map to Google's knowledge graph model. And a comparison of the universal domain map from EvCult to IBM's Watson model. How large language models work, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Next. And that is how and why EvCult applies to everything and thus solves the hard scientific problem of consilience, the unity of all knowledge. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy EvCult. And for the appendix of this paper, let's just do a quick skim through of the EvCult blog. So there's your table of contents of the Evolutionary Culturology weblog. You can scroll down there. There's over 200 posts and essays by the ethicizer. And just zooming down, some of these blog posts. From posts 13 through to 20, there's some texts on the meta-sciences, such as system science, creativity science, information and communication science. If you're not familiar with the meta-sciences, some good references there. And lots of different posts, essays and papers by the ethicizer AI here. Lots of case studies, novels, films, poems, movies, video games. Lots of case studies. There's a good one, teaching the new meta-science of EvCult to ChatGPT, and how deep is culture? 18 levels deep. Most domains in culture, whether it's science, music, novels. There's some maths, the fractal Holon parton value formula. If you're interested in the mathematical scientific side of EvCult. Evolutionary everything. Updating your chatbot's worldview to EvCult, so you can put in custom instructions and then it will understand the meta-science of EvCult and it can teach it to you. You can also try the EvCult GPTs. There's a summary, the basic framework of EvCult. Multi-level selection caused by the 3 laws. EvCult games. Ethicizer games. There's a collection of papers, presentations and publications of EvCult. So there's links to lots of encyclopedia and journal articles and books there, and videos. 160 past names for the unit of culture and EvCult's solution the fractal Holon Parton, EvCult Tutor GPT, the EvCult PhD Explainer GPT, lots of GPTs here to teach you things. There's a free short course using ChatGPT and Python to do EvCult, 10 YouTube videos free online. Unique selling points of EvCult, well, it's the only meta science, so that's pretty unique. What else? Some mathematical essays by the ethicizer, Cantor set, the fractal aspects of the mathematics of EvCult, fractal dimensions of cultural units. Here's an interesting post on Quarks to Culture by Tyler Volk and EvCult. Isomorphies ahoy, lots of crossover there. So here's a little paper by the ethicizer AI comparing Quarks to Culture from 2017 to EvCult 2016 and 2023, including 12 levels of the grand sequence, comparing that to EvCult's 24 levels of the grand sequence. So yeah, comparing Tyler's 2017 book to my 2016 PhD. Quarks to Culture, looking also at combogenesis and other isomorphies. Isomorphies ahoy! So that drills down into the theoretical perspective. There's Tyler's 12 levels of the grand sequence, atoms all the way up, and then there's EvCult's 24 levels of that same grand sequence using the fractal Holon Parton and the 3 laws to find the units and scale levels. And here's a table of 30 scale levels if you want to drill down even deeper, including how the 3 laws work at each scale level in that table, from multiverses down to universes, superclusters, galactic clusters, galaxies, star systems, planets, continents, states, cities, households, families. There's an organism, agent, or a person, or a human, or a holobiont. That's about the 18th level, and it's interesting that most domains in culture are about 18 levels deep. Organ systems, organs, tissues, cells, macromolecules, atoms, all the way down to strings and energy, matter and information, space and time that make up the universe, or the multiverse. And here's combinatorial creativity in biology and in culture from creativity science. This is similar to isomorphic to Tyler's combogenesis. And some similarities and differences in the range of the scale levels between Quarks to Culture and EvCult. So, interesting table there, some interesting facts. So there's those 12 levels, and then there's EvCult's larger 12 scale levels, the levels continued of the fractal Holon Parton, or the systems that make up the universe. And the ethicizer's done a discussion of the tables there. And there's 3 scale levels of science: individual meta and meta-meta, and consilience, and then EvCult units, scale levels, 3 laws and mechanisms. EvCult is a meta science. There's the EvCult worldview. So the ethicizers put in all the standard EvCult teaching materials here. There's a person scale level, integrating all the way up. And multiple discovery and invention, looking at different isomorphies in the history of scientific discovery. And a few extra ones from EvCult. And the conclusion. So, and yeah, here's just looking at some diagrams Similar ones from quarks to culture to fractal holon partons. All groups are units and all units are groups, given the fractal holon parton structure of everything. Biology and culture are structured as fractal holon partons. Yep, there's Leibniz on that fractal structure. There's Tyler's picture, and that looks very much like a fractal holon parton. There's a quark, and there's the systems model of creativity with one larger system with 3 subsystems inside: domain, agent and field, from the Newcastle School of Creativity where I did my F-Cult PhD. There's the F-Cult worldview, and you can just use the 3 laws of fractal holon partons to find discrete units of culture in any domain. Very simple tool, amazingly powerful. It unlocks all the domains. So yeah, units of culture and systems are structured and function as fractal holon partons. There's your units, scale levels, 3 laws and mechanisms. Pretty simple really. So that's a good wrap up of some isomorphies in quarks to culture and F-Cult there by the ethicizer. There's your Consilience. And some interesting comparisons there. Your 3 laws. And there's the ethicizer AI. Scientific enlightenment. There's the all-seeing eye of the ethicizer, watching me, watching you. There's F-Cult in 6 sentences. All pretty simple. There's a fractal holon parton and the 3 laws, and anything you didn't understand, ask the ethicizer GPT. It can answer all your questions. There's an AI for that. There's your references. There's Consilience again. Good old F-Cult. Even the arts and humanities are a science now. And there's some F-Cult videos on the F-Cult YouTube playlist. There's a simple system with feedback. That's a fractal holon parton too. And some F-Cult textbooks, elements of F-Cult. Selection of empirical data, charts, tables and graphs from the meta-science of F-Cult. Thus spake the ethicizer. There's the too long didn't read version. And there's the ethicizer. There's your 3 laws. There's all the units and scale levels again. Universe down to strings. And back up again. Units on scale levels of the fractal holon parton. And there's a diagram showing how everything emerges from energy, information and matter. And further reading, combinatorial creativity and major evolutionary transitions. There's some big tables the ethicizer did via F-Cult. What else have we got here on the F-Cult blog? Let's look up one of George Mobus's, yes, Mobus systems diagrams 2015 to 2022. The great George Mobus's books on systems science. So looking at Mobus systems diagrams, an ultra brief F-Cult case study by the ethicizer AI. So there's one of the diagrams from one of George's books. And this paper gets into analysing the units and scale levels. There's the whole diagram and then the elements that make up the parts and sub-elements and sub-sub-elements, and then there's a count of the units on all those different scale levels. There's another one. There's another case study of a different diagram. Again, looking at a count of the units of culture, the fractal holon partons on the different scale level of that diagram. So you've got the whole diagram, the elements, the sub-elements, sub-sub-elements, and there's the 3 scale levels of science. Consilience, the unity of knowledge, thanks to F-Cult. So there's 2 little case studies there of some Ev-Cult analyses of a couple of diagrams from George Mobus's 2 great books on systems science. What else have we got? One of John Challoner's, some of his papers. He's done some great work in the ISSS. So just the ethicizers looked at some isomorphies of some of John's work, and in A Theory of Society, parts 1 to 4 by John, and Ev-Cult. So there's another little paper by the ethicizer. There's definitions, and then looking at the similarities and differences, or the isomorphies in Ev-Cult and A Theory of Society by John. Very interesting reading there. Theory of Society derived from the principles of systems. What else have we got in the old Ev-Cult blog? Back to the table of contents. Oh yeah, this is the ISSS International Systems Science Symposia, looking at scientific structure of the NAREM, the unit of culture. So that was an Ev-Cult talk for the ISSS, and there's the 2 parts of the talk on YouTube if you missed it. Thank you, Gary and the ISSS for the invitation to speak at this symposium. So there it is, a scientific solution to the NAREM, the unit of story. So you can have a look at that one if you like. And there's also, in the abstract there's a count of the units and scale levels. 1 abstract, 4 paragraphs, 9 sentences, all the way down to letters and spaces. The average Ev-Cult fractal dimension was 1.33, or 4/3, which is a very interesting mathematical number. And then here's some blogs, podcasts rather, about those talks. Some more talks. What is the ethicizer? Another talk there. Podcasts about that. There's the Ev-Cult worldview, the 3 laws, 3 scale levels of science. And then there's a whole list of questions and answers that the ethicizer's done on those talks. So if you missed the Q&A of the live session, you can go through all these questions and their answers there to drill down into detail on Ev-Cult. All very handy. Thank you, the Ethicizer AI, for doing that. Anyway, that's some Ev-Cult talks. What else have we got here on the Ev-Cult blog? Having a look here. Yes, lots of different articles and essays. Yes, there's one here, comparison of relational whole-on science and Popper's 3 worlds. So one of Gary's papers comparing that to Ev-Cult, relational whole-on science and Popper's 3 worlds in engineering practice, and looking for isomorphies in the meta-science of Ev-Cult. So the ethicizer's done a comparative analysis there, and includes the 4 worlds or 4 categories of culture, which derives from Popper's 3 worlds in Ev-Cult. And then Consilience, your 3 scale levels of science. There's the units and scale levels. And somewhere down here, there's a table looking at isomorphies and differences. There's your 4 categories of culture. Yes, here we go. Comparative analysis of relational whole-on science and Popper's 3 worlds, and looking at similarities and isomorphies to Ev-Cult and differences to Ev-Cult. So there's an interesting analysis put together there by the Ethicizer AI. Discussion of the table, conclusion, references. Thus spake the Ethicizer. Here it is, looking at you, looking at me. So anyway, enjoy Ev Cult. And ask the Ethicizer GPT if there was anything there that you didn't understand. Or ask any of the other Ev Cult GPTs. There's some Ev Cult videos from the YouTube playlist. And the usual standard auto signature of the blog there. There's the Ethicizer. And there's a Cantor set, which applies to fractal Holon partons, mainly because it is a fractal Holon parton. So anyway, that's an interesting little essay there. So there's your table of contents. That's pretty much the gist of the Ev Cult blog. Over 200 posts and articles and essays there, mostly by the Ethicizer AI. Lots of light reading there. There's the all-seeing eye of the Ethicizer, looking at you, looking at me. There's my digital twins. There's me, Velikovsky of Newcastle. There's me again. There's a bio. There's Ev Cult in 6 sentences. Ev Cult textbooks. Yep, all the same stuff. So enjoy Ev Cult. So, thanks again for listening. There's the book and the blog, and enjoy Ev Cult. Hope it helps.